Waffle House on Kingcrest Parkway East Access Road and the Doorway to All Worlds by Jay Wilburn. I don't anticipate making huge changes to this story. It has pretty good bones. It has pretty much the course of the story is pretty well set. The characters are established. The progress of the story is all there. So hopefully, other than fixing typos, we're dealing with maybe some small additions that might make a big difference. Little subtle changes that sharpen up the story a good bit. Right now it's sitting at just over 2,800 words, and I don't anticipate pushing that much higher. This is not the kind of story that I think benefits by being stretched out too much. So let's see how this one goes. So again, the Waffle House on Kingcrest Parkway East, Access Road, and the Doorway to All Worlds by Jay Wilburn. Finn's gone, Milo Doyle said, as he burst out of the weird woody brown swing door Waffle Houses have between the long, narrow kitchen / dining room, let's say, area and the bathrooms. August Fur stood to one side, and Colt Artist knocked over a stack of high chairs as he backed away from the light pulsing and pouring out from the restroom hallway. Alright, let me add a little something here. Leon remembered there being a jukebox where, let's see who knocked over the chairs. It was Colt. Where Colt now stood. That was back when he was little, though. Alright, I don't know if that adds very much, but I'm going to leave it there anyway. The cook and one waitress working that night at 2 a.m. had retired to the kitchen before the portal ripped open between the guys and the bathroom. Just as Finn had gone to relieve himself. Alright. Leon Juliet was the only other one there to witness the vanishing of their friend Finn. He hadn't stood up from their window booth across the restaurant, from the rip across the restaurant. Leon Juliet. I don't need to say that he was the only other person to witness it because I've already mentioned he's there, so I'm going to cut that whole section. Leon Juliet hadn't stood up from their window booth across the restaurant, from the rip in the universe. And yet, let me put yet there. I know I'm piddling with this sentence a lot, but we might as well get it right while we're here. Leon Juliet hadn't yet stood up from their window booth across the restaurant, from the rip in the universe. There we go. Milo held the door with his knee as he extended his open hands at them in a what the hell gesture. We need to help him. He's in that thing. Unnatural wind sucked instead of blew. It messed up Milo's hair and ruffled his clothes. It had done worse to Finn, but what were they supposed to do about it other than fall into the rift with him? Leon still made no motion to get up. Colt and August looked to Leon for an answer. No, I don't need that in there because I'm kind of doubling up on the story here. I need to just read and fix it as I go. Colt and August looked to Leon for an answer. Leon still hadn't stood up from their booth. Grease and a few slivers of undercooked hash brown shimmered with the light. Shimmered on the plate in front of him from the swirling the swirling light of the anomaly. Alright, let me see if I can spell that right. Anomaly. There we go. Alright. Moving right along. I'm too high for this, Leon thought. Too drunk and too high. I've never been this high. I've never been open a portal into hell kind of high. Leon realized the others were looking at him because he was the closest to a stodgy old man that their group had. He was a wet blanket sometimes. He was not cool most of the time. The light flickered and the sound of sucking wind dropped away to a ringing heavy silence. Milo cursed and slammed the door against the wall. He disappeared into the bathroom hallway of the Waffle House. Not the way Finn had disappeared, though. Look at that. Let's say not like Finn disappeared, though. August and Colt followed quietly. Leon waited for an adult, a real adult, even if it was the... I don't want to say janky, I use that word too much. Even if it was that... surly. That's good enough. Even if it's that surly old man Cook. But neither of the employees came out from the back, so he stood... let's say he finally stood. So he finally stood on watery legs and walked in on the tail end of the discussion, of the heated discussion. Leon felt like he needed to relieve himself in that moment. But that hadn't worked out so well for Finn. All right. Feel good about that. We can't tell his parents, August said. There was a hole through the tile wall. Are you hoping they won't notice? Milo asked. It was two walls mostly gone at one corner. Let's say it was actually two walls mostly gone at a corner. Leon, oh hey Zach, thank you for dropping in. All right, Leon thought there used to be an employee door there, but if there was, it had followed Finn Yates into another dimension. We'll get in trouble, August said. I think they'll ignore the drinking, Colt said. They won't, August shouted over the end of Colt's words. They won't because they'll think we killed him. Dumb kids like us end up in jail for shit like this. So we just walk away and say what exactly? Milo asked. The hole in the walls was really a hollowing out. The curves of missing matter were a near perfect sphere of destruction. The top curve cut through the foundation, the bottom curve cut through the foundation into the clay. The interior curves broke a hole into the freezer that was venting frosty air like a chimney. And the back room showed racks of bread. A couple loaves were sliced through laterally, taking half of each piece of bread into another universe. Those two working here had to see this, Leon thought. If they're still alive. I guess he wouldn't know it's another universe. Took into another universe. Or burned him into nothing. He went to the bathroom and then we didn't see him after that, August said. It's true. They can come here and see this craziness for themselves. Come here and, let's say, make sense. Make sense of this craziness for themselves. The boys walked away from the hollow place and paid. And let's say went to the register. To pay. Went to the register to pay, like that was the end of it. Okay. The boys walked away from the hollow place and went to the register to pay, like that was the end of it. No, because they thought the waitress might be dead. The boys walked away from the hollow place and found the waitress stacking dishes in a rack. They looked at each other before they went to the register to pay. Okay. The boys walked away from the hollow place and found the waitress stacking dishes in a rack. They looked at each other before they went to the register to pay, like that was the end of it. Did you notice anything strange? Leon asked as the waitress added up their yellow tickets. Leon was going to cover Finn's bill. Around here, she asked. She might have laughed, but it came out as a cough. Always strange around here. The strangest part was that nobody asked. Okay. Alright, let's say in the days that followed. In the days that followed. In the days that followed, the strangest part was that nobody asked. No one for a week came to the four of them about Finn. They looked for him. Say people. People looked for him. Mr. and Mrs. Yates called everyone they knew, including the school, but never, that could be a comma, but never the four who saw him last. They returned. Okay, let's add a little something here. It was a purposeful, almost supernatural ignoring. It was a purposeful, almost supernatural ignoring. Okay. I'm not sure that's a good sentence, but I'm going to move on for now. They returned to the Waffle House on the Access Road again the following weekend. It was way worse because they were dead sober. Milo dared to open the swing door to the bathrooms, and the thing that, I put Steele's boys, but that doesn't make sense. And the thing that stole, say, in the place. It's not as strong, but it makes more sense. And the place that stole Finn. The hallway was intact. Restored is a better word. The hallway was restored. The employee-only door was back. A new door, unlike any other in the building, took up most of the wall at the end of the short passage. The supernatural ignoring had included some renovations. All right. The supernatural ignoring had included some renovations. It was red. Let's say I added another sentence, so I need to specify. The new door. The new door was red. It had a brass knob. Hey, Clever, thanks for dropping in, man. It had a brass knob that shined golden and glorious. Okay. Leon couldn't tell if it was wood or metal by looking at it, and none of them dared to touch. Should be the freezer right behind that door, Leon whispered. Slow day at writing for me, attempting to get my grounding back. I had the same experience, man, if that makes you feel any better. I sat down and was doing a couple bookkeeping things. I kind of got a slow start. And then as I was running through things, I just said I wasn't feeling it today. So I had like one ghostwriting project and one kind of side semi unimportant thing that I was doing. And I just moved all those things to the next day. I didn't even really do anything writing related. I prepared a couple stories for possible submission later in the day, but even those I'm going to need to look at again. So I guess I had a slow, almost non-moving day at all. If that helps a little bit, we all go through it, I think. All right, should be the freezer right behind that door. Leon whispered. Should be a big ass round space of nothing. Last I saw. Colt said back a little louder. Probably a comma there before last I saw. All right. When did you remodel? Milo called. The cook shifted and narrowed his uneven eyes at the boys. He had the look of a man who didn't realize he was being addressed and then was pissed when he discovered they were talking to him. All right. You like it? It was freshly done in 1978, and we'll fix it up again in probably 2 or 3 nevers. 2 or 3 more nevers. The man turned toward the grill even though nothing was cooking. They weren't planning to go back again, but Finn called them from the payphone in the Waffle House parking lot. They knew that's where the call came from because it was the only payphone left in town that anyone knew of. All right. Finn Yates was older. It wasn't decades, but he had put some years on in the previous 2 weeks. If nothing else, Finn's hair was a foot longer and braided up with all sorts of strange materials too coarse to be ribbon. He wore a leather jacket and pants, but they weren't for biking or rocking. These looked like they were sewn together with thick cords of rawhide. Leon wasn't a hunter really, but like any boy in town, he knew guns. The 2 that Finn wore under his rough coat were none he recognized. The butts of the weapons looked like the same red material as the new door by the bathrooms. Leon wouldn't touch those either. Finn wore them in low shoulder holsters at about rib level. The butts of the gun faced outward, cross-draw. "Where did you go?" Milo finally asked. He sat next to Finn. The other boys crowded together across from him. Across from him in the same booth. In the same booth from 2 weeks ago. All right. I went to more not words. I do feel like I go to more words, but that's not what this story is about. I went to more worlds than I could number, Finn said. Let's spell his name correctly. All right. It sounded like him, but not really. He had an accent, but it was barely there, like a thing he wasn't conscious of enough to be putting on. "I'm glad you're back," Colt said. "It's been weird." "I'm not staying," Finn said. That brought silence. Finn took the chance to cut a few more bites of his chocolate chip waffle. "What do you mean? Why aren't you staying?" August asked. "My life is better lived in other places than this." "Tell your mother that, Finn," Leon said. He expected that line to sting worse, but Finn was enjoying his food too much to give the expected reaction. What have you been doing? Milo asked. What's on the other side of that door? Everything is on the other side. Worlds that dwarf this one. Everyone stared. Milo pressed. And the skies. Okay, I wanted to add a little something here. The velvet. Let's capitalize it like that's a thing. The velvet skies are on fire, Finn said. His accent got thicker by degrees. Over the lavender oceans. We battle the death fleets and their murder men, the inland kingdoms. Let me capitalize that too. We'll just make all of these proper places. The inland kingdoms do not need to suffer any longer. The oceans do not... Let's say the seas, since we've already used oceans. The seas do not need to be the domain of those evil men for another generation. You're fighting a war? August asked. It wasn't disbelief. Leon heard awe in his friend's voice, and that bothered him. I'm fighting all the wars, boys, Finn said. He showed his guns again as he spread his arms across the back of the bench. All universes are connected, and saving one saves all. That's the adventure. That's a life worth living. Well, it was nice knowing you, Leon said. I'll kiss your mother goodbye for you. Come with me, Finn said, with too sincere a voice. Leon's blood ran cold. All of you. Finn's eyes, let's say, moved. Finn's eyes moved off of Leon, and that helped. Left a lot of words out of that sentence. Alright, Finn's eyes moved off of Leon, and that helped, but not a lot. Leon eyed the single diners eating alone at 3 other spots in the restaurant. They seemed uninterested in Finn's fantasies. We can't, August said. We have families. Colt looked around for support from the others. It's about to be our senior year, Leon said. Why would you bail now? Because it's not good enough. Finn placed a couple gold coins on the table and motioned for Milo to let him out of the booth. Nothing is going to happen to you in that high school, in this town, in this world that hasn't already been played. Let's say played out. That hasn't already been played out year after year by other hopeful boys stuck in this same place, same town, this same world, let's say. Finn shrugged and walked toward the bathrooms. Wait, Milo said, and Finn did. Leon didn't stand up from their booth. He studied the others around. The waitress, a different one from 2 weeks ago, placed a plate of eggs in front of a huge man with a walrus mustache. A woman in another booth was hidden by her hair. Let's say blue hair. Just make it strange enough. What, Milo? Are you ever coming back? I came back to try to give you more than all this. What would be the point of having the same conversation again? Alright, looking good. Finn turned away. Repeating the same things over and over forever is how this world works. That's what I'm saving you from. Okay, I guess that's good. Say trying to save you from, but I guess this is good. To be some kind of pirate, Leon called at his back. No one looked up. To sail under burning skies, fighting death troopers. Finn kept going. Milo looked back, wild-eyed, and then ran after Finn. Don't, Leon called, but Milo did. They pushed through the swing door. The swing door to the bathrooms and the strange red door. And the strange red door that matched Finn's guns. All right, they pushed through the swing door to the bathrooms and the strange red door that matched Finn's guns. Light flashed around the edges of the swing, around the edges as the door swung closed. Leon knew they were gone before August and Colt opened the door to check on them. The red door had turned blue and had a silver handle instead of a knob. The man with the walrus mustache got up. He wasn't a man, really. His jacket accommodated 4 arms. He adjusted his crossbow on his back and paid with purple bills. When the waitress thanked him, his thick tongue licked out at his yellowed tusks. Colt and August stepped aside to let the alien through. They watched as the 4-armed walrus man opened the blue door on terrible white light. When it slammed closed, the door was green and had a scratched brass knob. Not nearly as bright and golden as the knob to the red door had been. All right. The waitress picked up the purple bills and then Finn's gold coins. She seemed perfectly satisfied with that. "What is that door?" Leon asked. Let's say the words didn't sound real to his own ears after he said them. She stared at him a moment and shrugged. "Open it for yourself. Like any other door, it's a way in and out." Let's say a way in or out. All right. Okay, I like that. "Did you notice anything weird about the last guy who left?" Leon asked. "This is the night shift," she said as she collected dishes. "Everyone is uniquely weird." "Do you think the green and blue doors go to the same place Finn and Milo just went?" August asked, with his voice pitched low. "Doesn't matter," Leon said from the booth. "We're not opening that. No way." Neither August nor Colt responded one way or the other, but they stepped away from the bathrooms. With his voice pitched low, but loud enough to carry to where Leon still sat. Alright, that makes sense, I guess. I could fix that later if I decide it doesn't. "Doesn't matter," Leon said from the booth. "We're not opening that. No way." Neither August nor Colt responded one way or the other, but they stepped away from the bathrooms. The woman with all the blue hair stood. Her skin was green, and she had 3 eyes slit like the peepers of a crocodile. She was definitely going through the green door, and Leon wanted nothing to do with it. He slid out of the booth. The other woman ate in the corner. She was blonde and her eyes were bloodshot, but otherwise, let's say her 2 eyes were bloodshot, but otherwise she seemed perfectly human. "I'm leaving," Leon announced. It would be 11 months before Leon returned to the Waffle House that faced Kingcrest Parkway. It was summer again, and he only went because the other two picked him up. They hadn't stayed close through their last year of high school. It was strange to be in the car again. Stranger still. I think that's a little of a cliche, but it may work here. Stranger still to be back in that place with the door to everywhere. They both looked older. Finn showed gray, especially in his beard. Milo had aged better, but was a man now. We don't know if we can get back here again, Milo said. You'll need to come now or risk living and dying here as you are. I don't see living and dying on Earth as a tragedy, Leon said. The Waffle House was packed. A man covered in red fur rattled by in clothing made of thick, loose chains. Someone with 3 heads and insectile eyes paid its bill at the register. Someone who could have been human swung into that cursed back hallway, but they really did go into the bathrooms. Are you still putting out sky fires? August asked. Milo chuckled. We have fought and won in many worlds. It was worth every moment. We are in the service of an inland kingdom, Finn said in a voice with more gravel. We explore west into unknown territories. We rescue villages. We offer a new flag to kingdoms in distress, and we build a bigger and better world across endless continents. I believe that needs a comma because it's 2 complete clauses. Milo added, we still find adventures on one ocean or another from time to time, and there's always the sky to sail. Finn patted Milo on the shoulder. There is a place for all of you, but we may be too far out to find this exact door again, Milo said. Finn waved with one of his gloved hands. The door may never be read again, but you can choose your own adventures if you decide not to come with us now. We need to get going, Milo said. Time goes on everywhere. The 2 men stood and the boys stared. Another comma. Finn scattered a mix of silver and copper coins on the table. No gold this time, Leon asked. Finn smiled. There are better places to eat. I'm saving my best for other worlds. I'm going, August said as he stood up. Leon looked to Colt for support, but the boy's jaw just hung open. Leon said, you're working at your dad's business. It's big money, a set future. Remember? Exploring other worlds seems less terrible. August turned away as if that were it. The 3 of them crossed the busy room toward a door that was still red with a golden knob. Shining murder bright. Alright. Colt yelled, wait up. Are you serious? Leon stayed planted, blocking Colt's exit from the booth. Colt tried to crawl over him, but then rolled over the back of the bench. And ran after the other 3. You have a scholarship, Leon said from the booth, and a girlfriend. You all 4 have families in this town, and they'll still be in this town without us, Finn said. The 4 of them walked past the bathrooms and spilled light as they opened the red door. It was bright and white, but as Leon stared, he saw swirls of lavender. The door closed, and something with a cheap coat of yellow paint was left behind. What sickly things lived behind that door? Alright, final section here. And hopefully we wrap this up strong. Leon Juliet stayed in town, working 3 different jobs over the years. He married and divorced with no kids, thank God. That would have broken his finances. He dated and broke up a few times after that. He ate at their Waffle House from time to time. The day was usually full of humans, and the changing door was tough to see in the daylight. At let's say sunlight, since I've already said day. In the sunlight. At night, the place was busy, and Leon occasionally asked. The place was busy. Alright, what would I say here? The place was busy with many species of diners, many species with diners of many species. All right, let me do that. With diners of many different species. All right, let me check that out and see if I didn't butcher that sentence too much. At night, the place was busy with diners of many different species, and Leon occasionally asked if anyone knew of Finn Yates, Milo Doyle, August Foyer, or Colt Artist. Some, I'm not going to say many, I'm going to say some. Some shook their heads or said no if they knew human languages. More than a few widened their eyes and told of legends that were some thousands of years old. These were the men who could conquer worlds but saved them instead. Pirates turned crusaders, warriors turned saviors. Knights of the Order of Finn defended 10,000 miles of highways in the west, said one. I've been to a dozen worlds myself, said another, and there are a dozen cities named after those warriors in every land. Yet another declared she had learned at their feet in a floating city they'd named Kingcrest and ruled above the clouds. Maybe it was still there, and she told Leon she wanted to return one day. She might teach there herself to a new generation of adventurers. Leon listened to every story. He wanted to keep up with his friends, even if he could only do so through legends and myths. He imagined what it would be like riding shoulder to shoulder with them, sailing the skies, or fighting battles worth winning. Then he'd note the color of the door to everywhere at the end of the short hallway behind the swing door. Such a short walk it would have been, and maybe his eyes would have adjusted to the brightness. Okay, such a short walk it would have been that last day they were together. They were all together. Alright, let me check that. Alright, such a short walk it would have been that last day they were all together. And maybe his eyes would have adjusted to the brightness behind that spectral door. Never was it red again, not for him anyway. He finished his scattered, smothered, and covered hash browns and his bowl of Bert's chili before returning to his own life. Own life in this world. In this one world. Alright. I think that's it. I feel strong about that. I think the ending conveys the emotional loss, the regret of not taking a chance. I think it shows the life that the others lived for getting out of that place. Oh, I appreciate it, Anthony. Thank you for your support on that. Not every story I do on stream turns out very good. I felt pretty good about this one when I first wrote it, and I feel better about it now that I've kind of smoothed it around and made it what I think I want it to be.